you just need to bring in the most expertise you possibly can to make that happen. And if you can have that happen within a year or two, then you get a groundswell of everybody pulling together. And then minds begin to open up and hearts begin to believe that it's possible to do. In my town of Burbank, they neglected paying the schools enough money to paint or repair the schools for 36 years in a row. Now Burbank is a middle to upper middle class community, but they weren't going to give the school system another nickel. Ever heard that?
Yeah.
And so the kids wanted to paint the entire school coming out of the retreats, the first 2 retreats we did. Okay, so they included the top 8 gang kids in the town. Now they had a $300,000 a year graffiti removal budget, but they couldn't afford to paint the schools. So they spent $300,000 on the businesses to remove the graffiti. They weren't preventing it, but they were paying, okay, for it to be covered over.
Really?
So I said, well, bring the leader of the gang kids. Well, they brought the top 8 gang kids in the school. We're responsible for at least $100,000 of that $300,000 per year of damage. They put them in my cabin. Not one of them wanted to sleep overnight with them, right? And so I got up the next morning. I invited it snowed that night. In Southern California, that's a treat up in the mountains. And so I let the gang kids help me with snowballs before breakfast. And at the breakfast time, after the breakfast time in the morning meeting, the leader of the gang kids said, you know, we're embarrassed to come to school every day. And I said, how come? Well, one wall's red, one wall's yellow, one wall's blue, and the ceiling tiles have stains on them. It makes us feel like you don't respect us. Well, we don't respect you. He said it just like that. I said, what are you saying? And of course, they had the cheerleaders and the football players and the student body president. It had the whole spectrum of the school there. And I said, what are you saying? Are you saying that if I help pull together the paint and the brushes and the rollers that you show up on a Saturday morning and paint your school? And this kid looked up and went, absolutely. I said, what about the rest of you? He said, yeah, we'd be there. And I told him, hey, listen, it'd be embarrassing to me if I had all this stuff in the front steps of your school and you didn't show up. And he looked up at me and went, we'll be there. And I went, you're on. And we had 250 kids, parents, teachers, civic leaders, business leaders. We painted 2/3 of that entire high school of 2,000 kids in one day. Made the NBC nightly news. Town comes together to paint school.
Wow.
Well, after we painted 2/3 of the high school, in fact, we took those 8 gang kids and put them with the chief judge in one whole hallway. We thought that was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Guess how much graffiti there was at that school for the rest of the year?
0.
0. Why?
Because they painted.
They owned it. They painted it. Guess who patrolled all the hallways in the school in every passing period for the rest of the school year?
They did.
They did. The gang kids did. There wasn't a stitch of graffiti or marking anywhere in the entire school. What we don't often do is give kids a high degree of ownership of anything so they can trash the whole place, not feeling any ownership whatsoever. So you got to change that dynamic. And the town, who hadn't passed a bond issue in like 20 some odd years, and they hadn't painted the schools in 36 years. 3 years later, they decided, okay, we love our kids. We got another attitude now about them. How much do you need? And the school system said, well, the schools are so run down, we need over $100 million. How much do you need? $112 million to be exact.
Really?
And they gave them $112 million. $56 million for each high school. Burbank High School has a 2-story parking garage for the faculty. Each of the schools have Olympic electronic touchpad swimming pools. They went from nothing, you don't get another nickel from us, to how much do you need? Oh, $112 million, fine. Go ahead and put it on the ballot, we'll give it to you.
Wow.
And who led the effort? Whose idea? Whose followed?
Students.
The gang kids and the rest of the students. They led the way. They changed the entire town's perception. Their entire attitude changed. The kids led the way. Is that possible here?
Yes.
Absolutely. But you need a process that actually makes that happen quick enough in 2 years that everybody, it sweeps everybody together. And that's what we're introducing.